discuss games that we've just had and even the game before, the Botswana game, and any other issues that have arisen. I think there have been a number of issues, including some camp discipline issues. So, yeah, thank you for joining us. Please do share the link with your friends, and you're welcome to add your comments in the chat. We'll be following them. If you have any contributions, we'll be following them in the chats. And welcome to my fellow, my co-host, Al, and the other co-host, Kelvin, who will be with me as we discuss the various things. So without further ado, I think we just head straight into it. Guys, we beat what they were calling the Zambia under 23 1-0 today. So probably we can start by maybe discussing what the setup was like, and probably what positives did you take before we go down to discuss the other things. How did you see the game, guys?
Kev, you wanna go first?
You go. You go. It's fine. I want to follow after you.
Okay, that's
I, wa-
fine.
I want to say, oh, Olive said everything.
You said everything. That's what I wanted to say, so it's all been said.
That's what I wanted to say.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It seems like Marinika has settled on this formation here. Three at the back, and then two holding midfielders, and two attacking and one forward. So I think I, for one, would prefer a different setup, but it's working for him. So it's hard to criticize anything about that. And Nakamba, it seems to be picking like his game, like he's improving. But next second half, he disappeared. He was good, like Patanga, Patanga the game, like the first half, and then during the second half, he wasn't as visible and energetic as he was initially. And then Mungameli, I think he had sparks of brightness here and there, and then there's some work that needs to be done as well in other areas, but you can see that the talent is there. So he's one to watch. He's probably one for the future. And Bill Antonio, he got active towards the end of the game, but in first half Anga Chimbo disappear. I don't know what was happening there, what was the issue, but he is also one bright ray of sunshine. And Macaulay Boney, yeah, he's good. He was unlucky with his goal, which was ruled or offside, but he gave the defenders a torrid time, which was good. And then who else I needed to take a hold? Our guy Jonah. Jonah is always as good as ever. Like he was like playing box to box, like dropping deep to help Nakamba defend, and then go help and sustain attacks. It was brilliant. And then, of course, we scored a lucky goal, but a goal is a goal. How it came about, but it doesn't matter really, because in the end we won. Like Keviza was saying earlier, we need that winning culture. If you keep winning, regardless but the tournament it is small say or however, as long as you have that habit of winning, it's good, and it keeps the morale up. Our last two games we won. So you go into the next one like with confidence. So it was a good game. though it was against under 23s, but those guys, you could see it the way they were playing. They know how to play. They can give anyone a torrid time. You say they're good players. And Botswana, we had no problem here. Under 23, it was Botswana, and we could beat them convincingly. So these are positives to take, and we hope Kuti Panozo, we are the other guys, then things will be better. I saw Kuti Tawanda is now fit. Chirewa is returned to Barnsley from Wolves. Kwanga for rehab. So hopefully next time Anagarishi are available, and then we'll see how it goes from there.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Alice said everything. Yeah, he said most of the things, to be fair, and I think you see, there were a lot of positives, from there, and I think, like you look at today's game, it was very. Sometimes it could be scrappy, but then I think the pitch played a big part, to this. You just in that pitch you just couldn't pass the ball as you would like to. Yes, of course, but there were patches here and there where teams, could have done better. And I think there's a point when Zambia seemed like they were a bit comfortable on that pitch, but not for long. The pitch was just bad. Sometimes people look at it and they're looking at the turf and they're thinking, oh yeah, but it looks green, and all that, it really looks good, but it was so bumpy, it was hard. So sometimes you end up being forced, to play a certain way because you've got to consider, but the pitch you have basically. So there were some positives there, and I think I'll actually start with Bonnie, because I've always rooted for him because with all these discussions, whatever people were saying, and I thought. Because of the way the pitch ended up being, yeah, I think we had to go long, and it suited him, but where, he was, he doesn't give defenders, room to breathe. The ball is in the air, he's got his elbows out, he's budging into defenders and all. So he's a worst player to play against, in those circumstances, yeah. But the problem I had with him, though, is that I felt that, yes, the pitch was bad, but he could keep hold of the ball a little bit for us. Then, I felt that there were times when I just thought, no, Bonnie, your touch has got to be better. Your touch has got to be better when we are trying to, yes, we're lumping the ball high in the air, but when it's coming on the deck, and I keep on saying, yes, we know that the pitch is bad, but there are times where you just have to use your body, and let the ball hit your body so that it don't go away from you, and then but you budge into defenders. But what he was doing was he was flying towards the ball. When the pass is coming, he's flying there. So it becomes difficult now for you to try to control the ball when you're running towards the ball and you've got someone who's nudging you in the back as well. That's why you have to, if you're going to run, you run, then you stop. So when you stop, what defenders do now, they'll go straight into you. And you've got a foul. Or the second time, third time he does that and he's getting a caution. The next time you run, you stop. What does he do? The defender do? They stop. So you control the ball. So he needs to be a bit more cute on that. And I expect someone who has played the level that he's played to do better. In those circumstances. I mentioned. Bill Antonio, I think he's a very good player. But I think prior to the to the podcast, I mentioned the one thing that I don't like, about individuals, where we all make mistakes in a game, stop trying to make others look like they're making more mistakes than you, or stop trying to make it seem like, you know what, someone has done the worst thing ever to happen on a football pitch, because yeah, because if you do the same thing and then everyone, you know what, we're human, yeah. You know, if you ever go at me, I'm waiting for you to mess up and I'm having a go at you.
And
Then
he did do the same thing close to end of the game.
yeah,
Did you
yeah,
see
yeah. I
it?
saw that. I
Yeah.
saw that, and I don't like that attitude. There's a difference between someone who's passionate about things and then someone who is almost like you're doing the more talking rather than what you can actually do on the game. Concentrate on your game. You're a good player. You know, he's a good player. He needs to stop that. He needs to stop that because he's not. You know, it was like we're watching Bruno. Yeah, but Bruno, you know, as much as he does that, Bruno brings up, he justifies that by what he does on the pitch.
Performances. Yeah.
You know what I mean? As much as I hate it, and I always say that I don't like that about Bruno, but at least Bruno, you know that what he demands, he sets the example. Yeah. So with him, Bill Antonio, he's not that level, in that, even in that side, to say he sets the tempo for the team. So what I'm saying is, whilst you still, you almost like a new side, you've got a new manager, a new coach, working with you, while doing different things, while different players coming in, just try to be humble, be humble, just work hard and encourage each other. Because one thing that I knew in football is that whenever someone made a mistake and I encourage them, I'm not putting pressure on them. Sometimes if you bollock them, the next thing they're thinking when the ball is coming is thinking, oh, you know what? I hope I'm not going to mess this up again. Guess what happens? You put yourself under pressure, you mess it up again.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the overall play, it wasn't great, but there's valid excuses there. But like I've said as well, we won a match. Sometimes we have to look beyond our expectations in terms of performances, because like some were saying that it's under 20. Yeah, it's under 23, but I gave an example of when first team was playing against second team on a Thursday in training. First team will always find it difficult, what to win, because there's just that level, which some players, is in players in reserve, they've got something to make. They want that substitution shirt, they want it, and somehow in football it just happens that teams raise their game. So just because they put under 23 doesn't mean Zimbabwe is just going to walk all over them. Yeah, because they'll be putting in good performances. And as well, like I said, well, I think I counted 6 players who literally, if they were there, all of them would be in our starting 11, or potentially could be in our starting 11. You're looking at Zamora, you're looking at Galloway, you're looking at Maswani Sechirewa, you're looking at even Teenage, suspended, but he tends to start. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mentioned Munetsi as well. Obviously, if he comes back, all these players, will be in the starting, more likely to be in the starting lineup. So we can't try to take too much away from these lads, and I think they've done a job. You can only play against what's put in front of you, and that's what they've done. If you had put Boozers in front of there, they could they could struggle against Boozers. It happens in football, then everyone will be, having a go at them. So they had these kids, in front of them, and they won the match. However, we won it. It doesn't matter how you win a game. We on goal or whatever, you won. You scored more than the opposition. Yeah. So I would say it's a good start. It's a good start. Post Afcon, but we're still a long way to go. There's still a lot of work. That needs to happen. Like I always is mentioned as well. I'm not quite keen on the 3 with 3-5-2. It came out as a 3-5-2, but you've got to respect as well that when managers, play that's their formation. You've got to embrace it and just understand that's the way it's going to be. There's no point in us sitting here every podcast and we're talking about the formation. We've got to embrace what he is giving us and then decide on how we view the game itself. When they're playing in that formation, just like if they were playing with four at the back. We'll embrace the four at the back, and if things are not working, then we have every right to know what to say. Our piece here. So
Yeah.
so far so good. And the other thing, though, I thought maybe you could have done better, but I also understand that there's two prongs here. One is we want the players who we don't know much
Yeah.
about to play. Yeah.
Yeah.
On the other hand, the coach has had a lot of, people having a go. Some still doubt him. Some still doubt him. Some have issues, with certain things that happened with the AFCON and all that, all this scientific thing and whatever. So there's fans who've got vendettas. There are fans who are reasonable, who don't expect too much from him in a short space of time. So sometimes as a coach, you're thinking, yes, I want to play these young players, but this is a tournament. Let me just win it to settle. Let me just win it
Okay.
to settle, because you might look at it as friendlies, but he's looking at it as competitive games. These are international fixtures. And guess what? He's won a cup. That's like winning Community Shield. Just because it's Community Shield, if you lose it, you can say it doesn't matter, it's Community Shield. But if you win it, you celebrate. Yeah. So now the coach will be in that position now where he's kind of, as much as there's always going to be people who are critical of you, whatever you do. But what he's done is just put a marker on it to say, we've won something. We've won two games and we've won a cup. Give us a chance, give us breathing space to work with these players. Yeah. So that can be difficult now to then put players in an experimental basis, because you're prioritizing winning this now, and then you've bought yourself a lot of time to then have a look at these players. So I'm sure that some of the players we need to see, they will have their time, to prove their worth in the side.
Okay. So this thing of I think we played a tournament. Is it 2 years back when we had Mapesa? Um, it was also a Four Nations tournament with Southern African teams. Um, we also had the same scenario that the coach was not comfortable to try other players. Um, so is it just because the coach wants to settle, or it's also that because of the short-term nature of the contracts that the coach is given, these games that he has, the few games that he has to make sure that he wins almost every game, so that on his record, if there is any evaluation at the end of the year or at whatever period, then they'll be looking at how many games do you win. No one will then say, no, this one was a friendly tournament. No, you were trying this new player, Ningi, this new player, Ningi. No, people will just say,
Yeah.
you played 8 games, you lost you lost
Yeah.
10 games.
Let me ask you a question on that. Yeah. Just
Yeah,
today. Yeah. Just today.
yeah,
I'm sure you've seen comments here and there about today, where a lot of people were saying there is no excuse for losing.
mm,
There is no excuse for losing. We've got to win this, because if we lost the game, the coach was going to be under pressure. So make
mm,
no mistake about it. The very same people who would say use the kids because these matches are not important, are the ones who are waiting to chop your head off if you lose that game,
yeah,
because they're saying you lost to a Zambian under 23. So
yeah,
no matter what, those coaches, no matter, even if we say a coach is independent, he's got to do his own thing and all that, a coach is always under pressure from fans, because we
yeah,
do put pressure on these coaches. We do put a lot of pressure on these coaches. So if you imagine some of the things that are said about Marinika, and he had only had like a few weeks into AFCON, you would think they were talking about a coach who has been there for a year. Yeah. So in this instance as well, people are saying there's no way that we're going to lose that match, because we've got one Zambia, which is in Argentina, and another Zambia, a under 23, which is there. How can you lose that? Because if you lost that, then uh, he's put it, he's downed his marker, because people will be saying he lost to an under 23. So he can't win, really, So he has
yeah,
got no choice but to look at this game as a must win game. And a must win game is not an experiment game. So that then makes him wary, and he's thinking, yes, I want to have a look at the young goalkeeper. I want to have a look at these young players or whatever. But then you end up thinking, because I've got to win it, let me go for experience today. We can always
yeah,
have time, to experiment, with these kids in other
yeah,
friendlies, because you would rather lose the next friendly match to a full strength South Africa, or a full strength Namibia, or whatever team that he plays against,
yeah,
with a few young players in there, because you would say we lost, but we're trying to see whether these young lads are good enough, to play in this. Because
yeah,
if he lost today with the supposedly under 23, then he's really put himself under pressure.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But
I
having
agree.
said that, Kevin, he still tried a number of players. You see, he introduced Marodza, he introduced Mauchi, he tried Murwira. I know he's not a favorite, but he tried him in the left wing back position. And then we now know where we are standing when it comes to that. Kuside with Radamun, he can cover, he can play there. You see?
Yeah,
And then
Yeah,
up front, he introduced Mfano, where Aquara, where Mpamid, anozani
Selemani.
Jarrison, Seleman. So
yeah,
he balanced. The squad was balanced. It was a
yeah,
mixture of experienced players and upcoming. And then the,
Yeah,
yeah,
the kid from Norwich, whom he introduced in the second half, you see, you gave him his first cap, and all those
from
things
Ipswich.
they are positives. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
I think it was a balanced squad overall.
Okay. I think one of the positives that I saw as well was Mfana Shane today, because I watched him play in the Highlanders game, and I felt that he was a bit scared, or probably it was jitters, Kuti, Satambo Tambiram, Zimbabwe, and seeing all that crowd Yangaga Sarema with the Highlanders fans, it would have been overwhelming. But today I watched him, and I like my players Mandimba Ndimba. So I really liked how physical
Mm.
he is. He was in Ndimba Ndimba. He was very good aerially. And yeah, I think he was blocking my passing lanes, and oh, I really liked it. And whilst I didn't like some of the attitude yaitwa Bill Antonio, I think there was a missed pass yaitwa Boni, and yeah, the way that he went at it. Of course, I think vanhu vanopopoterana ground, but I think he went over bounds. But I think in the past 5 or 6 games that we've played for my Warriors, I've seen Bill Antonio being one of the main people who are able to create something out of nothing. He has got good pace. He's unpredictable. He's not afraid to run at people, and it's nowadays it's very rare. I think last podcast we were talking about how rare it is to see my wingers who actually want to run at defenders and try to do something instead of just passing backwards. So I really liked Bill in terms of that, and I also liked the composure that was shown by Zindoga on the goal. I think if you saw when he went ahead with the ball when he was in front of the defender, I think the angle narrowed and he was no longer able to just shoot or to just cross without looking. But he was very composed and he shimmied and he waited until the right moment to try to cross the ball. So that composure was a good positive for me, though I think we need to see more of him. Another positive for me was in the last game, Mongameli. I think he was a bit confident then. Today, I was not so impressed by him. Number one, maybe it's my lack of knowledge of him. Is he a winger? Is he an attacking midfielder? What is he really, Mongameli? Because I saw that when he tried to play the ball, he was often brushed off it very easily physically. Then, when the ball was in the channels, when he was trying to probably dribble across it, he didn't have enough pace to be able to beat people. So I'm not sure, was it a matter of the pitch or something, but today the game was not so good for him. Yeah, I think those are the positives for me. Ray, how are you?
Zibo.
Boss Ray.
Yeah. Any
Chief
positives
Mose.
that you've seen from the two games, Botswana and Zambia?
I didn't watch the game today. I don't want to be seen saying the wrong
And the
things. I didn't
Botswana.
watch the game today. Versus Botswana. Ah, chinge tichinyembera na bhora boys. Chinge in the Botswana game, I'll talk about something I saw when Botswana was starting to play from the back. Pare it's kupressa, impressing Moborant, zvaitwa neLiverpool zviya under Jurgen Klopp. But you see, when you press, you need to know what you're doing. You need to know when you do it. Like I've been saying, players are supposed to be coached to play a system. Our boys are not even coached. These boys just learn the game off the streets. They're not coached to play in a system. If you could see when Bonnie would press, he would turn back to see who's coming with him. There'd be no one. So I'll explain something to you about that. One, he was making the mistake of going by himself. That's a problem Red that you're seeing. And two, the other boys were not pressing with him. That's a coaching problem as well. Why are they not pressing? You see, this art of pressing, not even from watching Liverpool, if someone explains it to you, you'd understand, the whole art of pressing. There's a guy here on the Scott Fox. He explained the art of pressing. When the team is playing the ball at the back, first you look at your teammates, where they're positioned. You look at everyone where they're positioned. When you realize that now everyone is positioned where they're supposed to be, the moment you take that step forward, you tell everyone else, these two guys, let's go. You just move into that space and then when you're ready, you tell him now, and then everyone goes to each, so that you leave them no room to knock it around. So you force them to play it over you. They start making those mistakes. When you do that, you disturb the rhythm that they have. But if you realize Bonnie will just run and press one, then he turns around thinking someone else is being pressed. The ball is passed there. When the ball is passed, now that's when one of the other guys decides he wants to come and press. You've already given these guys ample room to knock it around. You are never going to get it. That's why under Jurgen Klopp, right? Under Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool and Tottenham Spurs under Pochettino, Man City would not win. Why? Because every time they would try and do that knocking around nonsense, those guys would come one for one, press them. You disturb their rhythm and they don't like that, and once you disturb something they're used to, they don't know what to do next. But our guys could not press in the way that those guys were playing those guys who play the 1-2s, right? We get the ball. Mauchi gets the ball. He plays a pass to Marvelous or to Mukuru. Mukuru plays a pass to Takwa. These guys are playing it on the ground. Plays another pass to this one. And then he goes to the left-hand side. Who was on the left-hand side?
Moruera.
And who?
Hadebe.
What did happen after that? Efus. Your teammates have just been marking, playing it around on the ground. You're putting, why are you doing that? And the coaches are just there. They're looking at them. They're just there. They're watching them. They just say, this is where Kevin was talking about playing a system and playing, these guys who are taught, it's like this tiki-taka thing. Barcelona players are taught from the age of 5 how to play tiki-taka, movement with the ball. Where am I when the ball is, if Al's got the ball there, if Zagallo has the ball, where am I looking at? What am I doing? I see him is there. I look up, you're OJ, you're there. I look at the back, Kevin is there. So I would much tell myself, I shouldn't move any more than 2 steps from where I am. Because either these 2 guys are going to need me. If the ball goes then to the guy in the forward position, I move again. It's always watching where I am without the ball. And then when I have the ball, I also should know who's on my left, who's on my right, who's in my back, who's in my front. That way you constantly have the ball. And if you play guys like that and then you just come in haphazardly, I'm telling you, the first 15 minutes you'll be thinking, have we been running for 30 to 45 minutes?
Yeah.
Because they'll be manipulating the space. We could not even, 1-2s. These guys at the back would play the 1-2s. Left channel, it's an overpass. They play 1-2, get up there at the front. And then we go to the midfields. We play 2 defensive midfielders, Jonah and Marvelous. I don't know what we're trying to protect, why we're being so protective. Why we didn't even have, I don't know what's supposed to be the creative force in there. Up to now, I still don't know what's supposed to be the creative player in the midfield. There was nothing. Creativity came from the right, came from defenders. Creativity came from Jalai. It came from the right-hand side where Bill Antonio and Jalai were playing. There was absolutely nothing. This kid, Yoko Islanders, what's his name? Mongameli. Mongameli is the shoe-shine piano type of boy. But he's going to dribble people. So if he's doing that, if he does that, tell him to open space because he needs that space to, he needs that to do that. Teach him, but these guys are doing that. You do that because this is what he does. Do you do that? No. I think there's a long way to go because some of the guys in there, the standard is just different from the rest. If the rest are passing the ball around, you would have more machu. Then, and you don't even realize when he knows and repeat. And there was a Borapo Hadebe. So I don't know, I think Marvelous was calling him, another player was calling him. I don't know, Sikiza. And then Alvaro, then he hit a chew. And I'm thinking this guy will under first level. Enough of that. Enough of that. That's what I saw in the Botswana. And then we fast forward. Gentlemen, I'm really disappointed. I'm really disappointed because there's one person I thought who would not support Njakadaro, and he did. And he's still trying to do that. I'm really disappointed. What he's saying is akin to say, Yo Kaba, Ugasabatwa. Then you go and tell someone else with Ayo, Kubakuri Bo Sabatwich. You understand what I'm saying? There's a reason why athletes are put into camp before special meetings, before special, all these things. Thank you. There's a reason why they are put in there. And what is the reason? Because for the body to function at its optimum level, it needs to be clean from any of these things. And so you cannot say zvinoitika zvaiitika. Okay, fine, zvinoitika zvaiitika. What was the end result? And two, you're one of the guys that these youngsters look up to. They talk about you. Why die? And then they hear you saying that. What are you teaching them? And then you try to look for isolated incidents where you say ningi akazoti ngaramwe. You know, I want to give you an example. My late brother used to play for Zesa Wange. Team yairova iyoyo. Ask anyone who knows. Team yaichaya. Even these guys vakatambira Premier League from Info Flats ne Cape United, they played that Team Castle Cup. Basically, Shisopo knows this guy knows Nathan Banda. Manero Vantinia, Bunzana Nomziva. Vanamti Jabida, Fisanga Kaipae. They went to play Blower Jambos. You know, Varipo hostel so they started smoking bunch. Coach Wabanyaro Mumba, the old man is still there. Akaba ona so, Agamai. He didn't say anything to them. Ndobaro 1-0 half time. Akaba zati mukajiwa. Nezvangamuchita zvazvo. Kubhema zvazvo. Tondosangana kutraining. Why would he say that if it was okay to smoke? Why would he say that? Because he knew it would affect them. Either way, it could affect them. And did it. Anyway, because this guy's got, when it came to training endurance, Hamdare Yangaraipae, Laito Muchka, Vakara Blood Jumbos 8-1. Understand? 8-1. And then he said to them after Boragana dream pages which admitted now Mutengira foot. But before that, he had said Mukango Jikiwa Chet. Not that he supported them smoking when he said, can I remember sometimes so he was just happy. But I'm saying teams, players going to camp, athletes going to camp for a reason. You need to stay away, Anditka. You need to stay away from your conjugal rights, from sexual activities. Why? Because you're drained. You need to stay away from because it's not Ukamana Sanjika. I'm not saying these guys don't drink. These guys drink. We all see them on a Jack Grealish after all in our championships. I don't talk about Bora, Grealish and the Bora. But I don't assume that trophy though. But the question is, do they drink while in camp? Because you see some people bringing silly arguments. They put and the Harry Kane they drink. When they win a trophy, they drink. They know they are known to one. But we're saying when you're in camp, you're there for a reason. And they're also in camp to watch what you eat. That's a combat croissants and then I feel it. We all know that croissants is our favorite thing. But Kubora, you don't do that. Kubora, it's not good. You need to eat 2 hours before a game. Why? Because in 2 hours, the body is supposed to have digested the watch. And 2, it depends on what game in those 2 hours, but 2 hours before. If you read the most of these players, when they talk about what they eat, they talk about pasta. I eat pasta. Yeah, there's a reason why they do that. But this is Maya as Nabasa. It's okay. Usango bat watch it. And these are supposed to be ex-players, ex-stars who are supposed to be giving advice to the upcoming young crew. Look, I may not have played Bora to whatever level but when something is wrong, it is wrong, and I will tell you what it is wrong. And I will call out someone I always talk to because I believe me and him are friends. If I may use that word, friends. Me and him discuss things, like I wonder, different angles, personal things, all those things. And I'll call him out, Sipas Chimeza, that was wrong, my brother. Is wrong, Sipas. You need to retract that message. It's okay. It's not okay. We are teaching these youngsters wrong. These kids look at you, Sipas. These kids look at you when you exercise, even up to now. Symphysis. That dude is fit. You don't get that. You don't get to be like Syphus. You don't. It means there's a regime. He follows a certain regime. And let's agree on that. To be like the way he is, up to even at his age, he follows a certain trend. Understand? Let's ask him trend yo. He should tell us trend yo and see. You know, maybe you could be other project that these boys could it's there, okay, for example, but there's a better way of doing it. And secondly, Zipa, Ezra Myandoro, whoever came in there, whoever is the manager, the whole technical team here say, you fellas need to take a step back and then really look at yourself. With what are you doing? These guys, those boys were drunk. Make matters worse, these boys drink in front of the captain. And then you punish you punish Hadebe. Mostly a captain. I want Kevin to come and answer this. As a captain, his job is to make sure these guys, whatever their issues are, they need, he takes them to the other guys and to the technical staff and what he sees that's wrong, he is supposed to go and tell the apple to go, look, this was a problem with Asuguru. No. Vese akatodhakwa ipo paipa arati bhaiza nemvura akatodhakwawo futi vese aya. And I want to give an example. There's a movie, don't remember the Titans, Denzel Washington and he told the captain, I'll never drop a player. In any personal as the coach, I'll never drop a player. But if you feel a player to be dropped, you need to back yourself up. And then there's a guy who wasn't, it's all based on race, tensions and all that. There's a guy who wasn't blocking for their QB, who was a black boy. And then that QB broke his hand. This guy went to the coach, coach, I want you to drop him. Coach, you know my stance. Yes, that block, he missed that block on purpose. And it disturbs the team, so I want you to drop him. Why I'm bringing that up is, he's there in the room. Na teenage Armador, Wapana Yakada. Sendami was, you didn't need to know what Dakwere. Chasam Sendam. You didn't need to know Jesaka Dakwere. You can't tell him Sendami Jega, Imava Wesangwari Bo. Can't you say when the Mavi was Bo? And remember this Nyaya Kefuchi Kutaka Ben of dance, the Mambinga, when we went camp the last time, and did it. And while we're at that, he is the captain, and he's in there, and these guys are drinking, and I chiller, and then someone else to say from a Jaka reporter. That is rubbish. That is total bull dust. If I could swear right now, I'd tell you what I'm thinking, but I'm not going to do that. That is total utter rubbish. And that is utter rubbish because you are the captain. You as the first one tell them to boys, you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. And you should not be. And guess who they had in there? The young Monga Meli. It's also saying this boy, you're looking at him, this boy is the future. But he was right there. I'm not going to look at his age. I'm going to look at where he plays right now. Situation at him. He plays in Zimbabwe. And look at the guys he had in there. Look at the guys he had in there. Hey, the money bags. Those are money bags. What did you expect him to do? He's looking at them, their money bags. And then captain is even right there, sitting there. And then they punish Teenage Hadebe. No, even if I was in the top echelons of that team, Mabela should have gone home first before Teenage. You are the captain, you let it happen. You need to go. Because you are not a captain. If you cannot stand up to these guys and tell them, Guti, what you're doing is wrong, then I don't think you deserve to be a captain. And then I told you, Guti, these boys, hey, you know, Guti, the truth, this is what I learned from someone wise. The truth is in the black space between the two lines. So no the truth is in between past 19. That's where the truth lies. I told you the Mama associations that Bora, he was seen national this team He was seen and ningi, was seen and ningi. Those are not just random acts. Those are calculated chess moves. You understand? Those are calculated chess moves. They know what they're doing. Ndutamba uku, but vanogadzira uku. Kuitwa kuti uku zvikabhenda ndodzokera kupi? Ndodzokera uku. Are you with me? Are you following me? Are you following me where I'm walking?
Yeah.
Ndodzokera uku. All those are calculated chess moves. They can never. Marvelous. Chirakatamba kana 21 for the next 3 years. The same setup in Zifaira Kiripo. That guy is always going to be captain. Rather than in India now. He's always going to be captain. And we all know that. And we all know why.
Kevi, I know you had a different opinion. I think we need you to we need to.
Well, yeah. I wanted Ray to finish. There's it's not a different opinion as such, because there's a lot of things that Ray has said that I completely agree with, in terms of professionalism and all. But there's also, like some fundamental stuff I disagree with, and it's just a matter of opinion, and the good thing about it is it's not everything that we have to agree on, it's sometimes we agree on things, sometimes we don't. And the one thing that I agree with Ray is regarding, the professionalism, because for me, that's my call. Before anything else, I lived my football to get to where I even got to, even when I ended up in UK and playing semi-pro and all. Not many people can say they played semi-professional at 48. Yeah. So that tells you everything about me as a person, regarding my day-to-day sort of upkeep in terms of training, in terms of looking after myself and all that. And that's someone who's not even a pro. Yeah. So when you're looking at pros, you really expect, a lot, from players to look after themselves, to do the right thing. It doesn't matter whether someone is looking at you or not. I think there's a points there that where I feel like it's not the disagreement in the statements, but I think it's where some people are coming from. That could be where maybe if individuals were talking about it back and forth, they might come to an understanding. Because I'm sure even like, Ray has just mentioned, with Cephas here. I think if you sit down with Cephas and you're talking on a back and forth, you probably see that fundamentally you probably agree to the same things. But maybe it's the way that he's looked at certain things, the way, the context in what you would have said, what some of these things. I'm not going to be here. I'm not going to represent, Cephas, because I don't know. He knows exactly what he meant. But my assumption, on my thinking on what he meant, is on the basis of protection. Yeah, it might not be the right thing with some to come out and say things the way that he said, but I felt like he was trying to. It was more not condoning what he did, but sort of trying to put a cover and try to protect this young man. Because there's one thing that we understand in the game: fans and media can destroy you. That's a given. Yeah. So now, sometimes, sometimes people in trying to sort of lessen or try to protect, our players, they can end up their statements coming out in a way that is that seems like you actually saying it's okay to drink, it's okay to get drunk, just don't get caught and all that. Because from what I read, and I stand to be corrected, but because I read some of the things that Sifa said, but I think I was, to be fair, I was busy and I didn't really concentrate much on some of the things, but it seemed like he was going on about how the culture has been there. Not that it's right, because it's not okay. It's not an okay culture, but the culture has been there and is always there, and even up to now is still there. And people talk about, people can talk about Zimbabwe and can talk about, the third world countries where maybe we're not developed as much. But this culture, even in Europe, even here in England, you still have players who are being caught doing that. Yeah, professionals who are being caught, in a situation or in a compromising position, be it's women in camp, it's drink, it's drugs, it's all sorts. Yeah, there's always people who are going to do things, that's not correct. And I understand when we bollock them, because it should never be accepted. The problem is sometimes is that how far people go with that. Because for me personally, I look at it as anyone can tell me that these are not young men and all that. But you know what? I believe that they're young men. I believe that the young men, I don't believe, I think we put too much emphasis on football players and make them look like, I've mentioned this as before, that they should be role models. Yeah, because they might be men, but most of them, you look at the behavior, the attitude, whether in training or in the game, you can see the immaturity in a lot of players. Yeah, that's why I always say, do not count a footballer as your role model. Do not count a professional sports person as a role model. Yeah, because you will be disappointed. Because you will be disappointed. Yes, some follow, the way things are, but there is some out there who are just waiting to be caught, just like what happened with Teenage. So I looked at it, from what Sifas was saying, in the sense that he just tried to protect a young man who is in shit, basically, because we know that no one, not even a single person, would say that it's okay to drink just because I drank, when I was in camp and all that. So it's okay for him to do that. I don't believe that. If Sifas said that specifically, I personally don't believe him. I personally feel that it was more to do with, trying to sort of soften the blow on this player or on these players, because and we knew that it's going to blow. Probably, I don't know what I would say out of proportion, because it's a serious thing, but we knew that it was going to blow to a point where we know that this can cost a player his career, because there can be repercussions at his club. There can be repercussions with Zimbabwe national team because of that. So sometimes, players who have made mistakes as well, sometimes they will come and try to sort of minimize, not the intention that they are hoodwinking people, but they are trying to make people understand that these things can happen. But you're not saying it's okay for it to happen. And maybe now this is where people use but you know what? Even when we were in camp, it used to happen, and it's just that we were not caught. And if you think about it, these boys were stupid, because the difference between us when we were playing and now is that we didn't have social media. Yeah, because of stupidity. No paparazzi has gone to their room and filmed them. They did this to themselves. Yeah. So if you want to tell me that those guys are mature, I will disagree with you until tomorrow, because that shows you the immaturity of literally throwing yourself into fire. That is what happened. So then I'll move onto the Mave issue. The context of what Ray is saying regarding a captain, I understand. I understand completely, about
But
what that role entails. and the expectations and so forth. Yeah. However, a captain is not a coach. There is certain levels that you can go as a captain, as far as, because you have to remember the captain represents the players. Yeah. He represents the players, and he's almost like a conduit from the players to the coach or to the technical team. Yeah. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have power over players, over certain players, because if you look, there's so many clubs, so many instances where the captain doesn't even look like a captain because they are figureheads who are probably more sort of more visible than the captain. There is players who are hotheads, yeah, who no matter what, if you're the captain, you probably doesn't even give a hoot that you're a captain. That is not fiction. That is reality. And one of the things that I think a lot of people have mentioned is that Mave as a person, yes, he had, issues, that we've had, that me, myself, I have countlessly, had a go at him. But Mave is not an aggressive captain. He's not that captain, but you really expect, but to leave. Probably it wasn't even ideal that he became the captain, because I think some players who have got a bit more, sort of bite, but to be the captain. And so when I'm looking at that situation, yes, I can apportion some issues with the captain being there when that happened. But the biggest problem that I have is when everything that we are saying at the moment, yeah, it's speculation. The reason why I say it's speculation is because we are making assumptions based on what we saw at that point, yeah. But what we saw and how the issue has been dealt with are two different things. Because if what we are saying is what happened and it's dealt by Zifa in that manner, then you expect probably everyone in that room to be suspended. So we have got to know now why Teenage was the only one who was suspended. Is it because he's the one who was caught holding a bottle? And then the question then goes to, are you just supposed to be seen holding a bottle for you to be suspended? And probably some who actually drank are not suspended. But then we can't see the others drinking. We can assume, like you see, what's his name? That the young lad, the man, what's his name with the blondie? Yeah, his behavior tantamounted to someone who seemed like he had been drinking. But on the other hand, you see, the problem is he could come around and say, "This is me. This is me. I'm just mad happy. I'm a mad happy person." If so, people who have seen him doing that before, could say no, or probably we don't know. Maybe he doesn't even drink. So it becomes a problem because we're angry. We all of us are angry because we don't want that to happen. We are going to speculate based on what we have seen, but it might be correct, but it might not be fully correct as well. And this is the reason why I have, I'm not comfortable in going all out, to say categorically, this is what has happened and this is what has got to happen. But when it comes to Mave being the captain, and I expect Mave to lead by example, or to lead where, let's say, for example, because I've been in camp, I know sometimes, what happens in camp. So sometimes you are given a room, you're sharing a room. Let's just say that was Mave's room, he's sharing with someone else, yeah? So whatever these guys are doing in there, Mave That's his room. He's staying in there. Yeah. And he's saying to these boys, you know, guys, you can't do that. You can't drink. You can't drink. Yeah. These boys, if they defy him, yeah, there's two things here. And you see where I'm coming from, how difficult this is. One, you see that Mave gets up, goes straight to the coach's room and say, these boys are drinking. Yeah. Because he's the captain. We're saying he's the captain. He tells the coach that these guys are drinking. They're suspended. Or Mave is thinking, guys, I'm telling you, you shouldn't be drinking, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. I'm just making an assumption that Mave is not drinking at that point, because just because Mave drinks doesn't automatically make us say he was drinking. Yeah. He could have been. He could have been. But we can't categorically say he was drinking. Yeah. I'm trying to make a point here, because this is where sometimes even in a court of law, you know, you can get stuck, because we accuse people because we have belief, because Mave's got a track record already of his drinking, which we know, all of us, yeah? And he's saying, okay, if I go and tell this to the coaches, then I'm going to have a problem. I'm going to have a relationship problem with the boys, because no one, it goes back now to the boys thing. No one in camp wants to be considered a snitch. Yeah. So sometimes, and even though you know that it's at the expense of your game, maybe you're going to end up losing a game. But guess what? You can also think in that way, where you say, wow, okay, I'm telling you, you're drinking and it's going to affect your performance. So he's thinking in his way, in his own ways, it's going to affect you as an individual. You're going to end up being dropped out of the side because you've been drinking. Yeah. And not much about thinking we are going to probably end up losing the game. So these are all sort of scenarios which make it difficult, because if a captain had the power, you know, where he can do those things like say, I'm going to report you to the coach, and he gets away with that, and it doesn't affect the dynamics of the squad, then I would put the blame on Mave, because I'm saying you didn't lead by example. But knowing the differences in captaincy, how captains, you know, how different captains are, knowing that Mave is not Roy Keane captain, Mave is not Patrick Vieira captain, yeah, Mave is probably Odegaard captain, yeah. It makes a difference when you've got strong characters, you know, in there, and you are compromised, because on one hand you want to lead by example, on the other hand you're being compromised by your fellow players. On the other hand, if you go and tell the coaches, then you're snitching them. So it's almost like you're left in a position where you don't know what to do. But if he was drinking, that's a problem. If he was drinking, that's a problem, because if he was drinking, then him and all the other players should have been gone. It doesn't matter whether we're going to drop 5 players.
Can I jump in there?
Yeah.
The culture has been there. The culture is there. And it is not, the question is not on, the issue is not on whether the culture has been there or is not there. The culture has been there and it's there. And it happens, like you rightfully pointed out, it happens. We know it happens. My problem with all this is, let me start with Nana Mave as a captain. Mave is not the aggressive captain, like you said. Fair enough. That's a fair call. He's not. Andiji. And also Chechi too. Snitching is the last resort. Snitching is the last resort, especially in a team setup, because you disturb the dynamics of the team, Andiji. That's a given. But there's a point that there are 2 statements that you said that stood out. that he should have done. One, if that was his room, he should have told those boys, Ramana Budai, you can't be doing that here, Budai. And it, yeah, as a captain, he should have told them, Budai. By simply telling them Budai, he can't tell them, but I'm not supporting Jambu. Okay, let's say he wasn't drinking. And I'm Mvura. Let's take it from that perspective. I'm Mvura. If that was his room, she told them to boys, you can't be doing this. This is my room. You can't be doing this. Eliminate somewhere else. And that was the first right call to make as a captain. Or two, if that was either of those guys' rooms, Iarimo, and then they start doing that, he could have told them with voice, now I'm leaving. Because Zamupita is cash. It's not something that we should be seen doing. It's not something that we should be seen doing. Boys like you should have told them this is something we should be seen doing. Church 3, I want to talk about maturity. Players, don't look at athletes to be role models. Very fine. You can say that and we understand where you're coming from. And it. But at the same time, Mini, I want to point out something. If when it comes to issues, nobody has got isolated, especially things that are recorded, especially, let me repeat this, especially things that are recorded, those of that social media, it has nothing to do with maturity. It's all about excitement. Kevi, people get excited. Social media, another thing. So people get excited. And I would record that. That's why people end up having my nudes and all that. Why are you recording? Some things, Kevi. Kevi, even and one of us is an inclination for the herb, for the herb, Jamaican herb, and we know Gucci, we are not interested for that. We switch off phones. My camera got zero because pasina proof you can proof which is like you said, Msina can say that's not what that way in. Dango Jaiva. But both the church would a church and then in his right as a lawyer would tear your patch. Let me finish. I get I get all that. But in my problem with Captain is if this was in his room, Captain should have told those boys to leave. And she told them to leave, or she told them stop recording. Because apana, in social media, kudaku posta kudakuonekwa. Chinchakanga specify is that Tinaranda kuonekwa, loves Hennessy, Chichi. Hey, big boy, big time player, Chikukona. We see you, we see you, we recognize you. I'm gonna record that. Uchaite and it. And so what Uchaite, it all comes back the same thing. Why are you recording in the first place? And then we get the point of that culture is there. Many teams, many players have been let go in clubs because of such behavior. Not good someone snitched. From a record just like this one, Buddha. And the coach and coach knows the is on the line. Just because pay for those ones you are made to work. But in all that has been said and done, Captain was there. Whether it is room or not, Captain was there. Captain should have put a stop to it. So in my take is this. Captain first port of call in holding him responsibility, in holding him accountable for all this, to start with the captain. There's no way, even if he's not the Roy Kim, he's not the Vieira type of captain, there's no way anyone in a team you disrespect your captain. Even Odegaard, I want to go Odegaard can even tell Saka, pass the Jokeres border. Softly, can you pass the Jokeres border? Whether Saka likes it or not, can a captain or as a Zakadaro, he needs to consider what is being told, but that is captain.
Can I quickly, because I think I don't want it to be me and Ray, and I want to make quick points. Yeah, I want to make a quick point. Unfortunately, in football, players can but players can basically bully a captain. Unfortunately, it does happen. It does happen. There's so many instances, where players, have disrespected the captain. Off pitch, we're not just talking on the pitch, off pitch, and not recognize them. And you know what? Someone has got a contract, and this is the problem now. Sometimes you have a captain who is earning 100,000. We're talking about this football. A captain who's earning 100,000. And you've got a player who's earning 500,000. Yeah, and that player is regarded as more sort of important than the captain. Yeah, and ideally, you want everyone, no matter whether you're earning 1,000 or 10,000 or 500,000, to behave the same and know who is your superior as players. But some players don't. Some players do not do that. So I'll give you an example. And I want you to understand this, Ray. I'm not giving a pass on Mave. I'm trying to look at things, from an objective point of view, where I'm saying we don't have enough information, and I'm just basing on what we have. In an ideal, in a setup, yeah, you could have a room where that room was Maves, and he says to the players, "Get out of my room," because he's sharing with someone. There's no player who have a room by himself, and those players would say, "No, we're not coming out," or because they're drunken, or because they're his friends. They say, "I'm not paying you. And I know you're going to say probably he should move out of his room, but sometimes hindsight, it's when we're looking at things, and even the captain is thinking, maybe then maybe it was better kuti ndingobuda murumu imomo pane kuti ndirambe ndiri imomo, but it's too late. Zvatoitika kudhara. So Mave as a captain, yes, he's got a responsibility yekuti aite the right thing, but now zvakudependa ezvonechi nevanhu vaanawo. I want to catch you mawedzi ako awataura iwewe wati Kevin newe, we'll make sure we switch off my phones. Yeah? Why yeah. Me and you? You know why me and you? Because we're mature. Because we think we're not stupid. Because you know what? Sometimes some decisions on people are based on stupidity. Stupidity that can come from immaturity. Yeah? So it's easy for us to just think straight away, because like you said, they get too excited. Oh yeah, we've just beat Botswana 3-0. Yeah, we're going to put this video, whilst we messing about and all that. And then they forget that, oh, actually, whilst you're putting that video out, you've got drinks. Yeah? By the time they realize, oh no, we've done that. But guess what? Me and Ray and Ao and OJ, if we are in the same situation, we're not having a phone in there. The phone is off and we're done, because we think about what's in front of us. Yeah? That's where the difference, because look at even some of the players, multimillionaires players, some of the things that they've been caught doing, and you're thinking, are you for real? How can you not think about these things? But the one thing that I've learned over the time that I've worked, with individuals and players, especially this generation, there's too many idiots, too many stupid people, too many people who do not behave in the manner that me and you would behave at the time when we're that age. You see, because this generation, we all know from having kids, from, but being in communities and all that we're dealing with the people who are a completely different ball game. So this is what you get, from these people. And as sad as it sounds, but a lot of it has got to do with maturity. That stupidity that comes with it has got a lot to do with maturity.
Oh. What's your comment on this?
Interesting conversation. You see, whether we like it or not, these guys are role models. You see, the thing with being a celebrity is you're widely recognizable, right? And as a result of that status, you are targeted by companies to be used as advertisers to advertise their brands. You see, when you do that, everyone, including kids, they see you, they admire that, right? It's because it's a good thing, right? We have situations where vana vanongotaura kuti kana ndakura ndoda kuzoita John Barnes, kana ndakura ndoda kuita Ningi. You see, already they are emulating at them, emulating that. Ukatarisa my young footballers, you ask them questions. What inspired you to get into football? They will start telling you their role models who are former footballers. But I used to like how Ian Rush used to play. The biggest influence, the person who had the biggest influence on me was Gary Lineker, was Gary Neville. You see, we cannot run away from that fact that those people have influence on us and on our kids. And the problem is when those people start doing that, like drinking publicly in camp, then all the upcoming kids, let's not talk about Mungameli, let's go even lower than that. Vana vari kukura vachazoda kuita mafootballers. They are seeing footballers drinking. They will think that it's acceptable to drink in camp, which it is not. Or if it shouldn't be, right? You see, as a top level athlete, you cannot be seen drinking because alcohol naturally slows you down anyway, right? Your recovery time is longer. So that's why I have a problem with players drinking in camp or out of camp, right? We have players like Ronaldo. Ronaldo clearly stated that he keeps his body clean. There was one time I saw a bottle of alcohol in front of him.
Coca-Cola.
Yeah, Coca-Cola, yeah. And he totally removed it and put it on the side. They said, you cannot remove it because it's from the sponsors. Put it back. And you know what he said? He said, drink water. He had a point. Why did he even have the guts to say drink water? Because he knows his word is listened to. Why is his word listened to? It's because of the status he has attained as a role model. He knows there are people who look up to him. And if he says in front of the TV, drink water, do not drink this stuff, they will listen. And the sponsors didn't like it because they know people will listen to him. You see, influence on other kids coming up and on other players coming up. That's where I have a problem with that, with what happened.
Yeah, I get you out, and I agree with what the way that you phrased it. And remember, in all this, yeah, I don't want people to get it twisted. I'm sure if people are on the panel, you know me, you know what I'm about. I try to look at things, from different angles. I'm not in any way supporting this because I don't agree with it drinking. Yeah, but I'm trying to put certain situations, for us to see that sometimes we can look at things in a different manner. The reason why I say that you look for role models in the wrong manner, yeah, is the fact that what the expectations that we have of these young men playing football, it does not normally equate exactly where they are, how they're thinking and all that. You've just mentioned Ronaldo, yeah? How many Ronaldos do we have in the world? How many players, the percentage of players who can say, I do what Ronaldo does? I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do this, I'm training, I eat this and whatever, and I'm going to play until I'm 40 or 42 or 43. The average age of players dipping out, as soon as they turn 30, 31, 32, you get a contract for a year or 2 years. Probably by the end of the first year, you're gone. Because they are serious and professional about their sport, but not as much as Ronaldo. Ronaldo will probably be the only one, or maybe they not 1% of footballers will do what Ronaldo does. The majority of them, when they have the monies and all that. They want nice houses, nice cars. The women drink. The only time that with the drinks is that they'll be like limited because of training and all that. But they still drink, they still live, they still eat that rubbish. And to a point where they'll end up saying, "I can't do this anymore." If you see most of the players when they quit, they say, "I can't be doing this regime anymore." And he's only 32, 33, and they retire. Yeah. So, and also when you're talking about smoking, let's go to the kids. Yeah. The kids who emulate these people as role models. Yeah. Emulate them for the football part of it. We've not had where kids are going to say, "I want to drink like Jack Grealish when I'm playing." Yeah. They want to play like Jack Grealish, but they'll never be like, "For me to be like Jack Grealish, I've got to drink."
Kevin,
You see what I mean?
Kevin.
But
You
one
see, the
of
problem with that
Kevin.
statement, the problem with that statement is because we don't hear them say that. But there are kids in schools out there. You know what? Jack Grealish does it. We saw him doing this, justifying their drinking. So when
But how many kids would do that? How?
Yeah, we are not privy to
honest,
those numbers. We are not
we
privy to those
have
numbers.
we have 50 kids who want to play like Grealish. How many kids they are going to say, on top of emulating his football, we're going to emulate his drinking? Come on, if we're being honest about it.
But Kevi, you know what? I think Al may be right, because if you see a kid and a like Jack Grealish, I was actually thinking of it, but if you see these days, you can have TikTok, especially those Zimbabwean players. Number one, go and check their usernames. My usernames, Emma Zimbabwean players. Kana chinzi doshansa for example. Doshansa. Kana chinzi
you use yourself.
asiri controversial. Nditi inini. Kana chinzi OJ and it. Ukaenda pa ningirikeni pangu pa TikTok pangu. Zita rinenge riripo rinenge rakanzi OJ Yamao. Kana ndatogona. Usually vanenge vakatonzvinyora kuti Lamine Yamal. Nditarisa kuti ndopfeka sei. Mpana ndenchipfeka hangu uri mukofera wokumupedza nama nditi. But I would dress like what Yamal does. Quite some step. I think you have seen a very viral video of a guy anozviti Saka so wekugana. Anofamba saSaka. He dresses like Saka. Kana Saka achisa gumbo one pamusoro patrousers, and those young men who follow that.
But let's be honest about it, OJ. Let's be honest about it. Yeah. You can follow someone on that, but you cannot tell me with I want to smoke cannabis because I know Zimbabwe, I don't tapa bora, I think I got kudara,
I'm telling you,
what I'm saying is the majority of players, the majority of young men, when they talk about role models and they talk about emulating, I'm saying this because I'm looking at football players, just think about it. Okay, reverse back to when we were playing. This is when the drink culture was rife, cannabis was rife. I tell you, when I was at Caps United, probably half of the players smoked cannabis. Sometimes they would smoke on the coach whilst we on our way to the game, and the coaches will come, and all that. And a lot, it was a well-known thing that people would smoke, smoke cannabis, they drink and all that. But that didn't mean the players who came after us said, "I want to smoke cannabis because so and so was smoking cannabis." It's something that in a generation.
Is that not exactly what the two legends have said? No, you guys can't say anything.
No, I think what Kevin is saying is it's based on the sporting side. I want to play like Ronaldo, skill set and what's. And the problem that's killing our youngsters now, and is the emergency of the emergency of social media. It's everything. Smoking is cool. The banana vapor, people vape. They don't even know what's put in those things, but they're vaping. That's why I say player 30 anopera. If you look at these new generation players, age 31 is finished. And then you wonder, but look at Ronaldo, he's still going. Look at Lionel Messi, still going. These guys learned from watching the guys before them. To avoid that, I don't do that. But the more they smoke, the more they vape, the more they get drunker. It's the in thing, it's a trend. So they're not looking at it from the way we are looking at it. So
it's a generational thing. With them. You see,
instead of getting better,
it's not a role model. It's not a role model thing. It's a generational thing. And the reason why I'm even saying that is because like people like me and all four of us here, right? We and I know all you guys that we're very reasonable, very reasonable people, and we think about what we say and all that. Yeah. And you have a situation where you have the young lads, who are the young lads even watching us, talking. They're not necessarily, they might emulate what I do, what you, OJ, do, and all that, but it doesn't mean that everything about me is what they're going to do. Yeah, they when they're talking about the role model, they're talking about the thing that puts us where we are, which is the podcast. Same as with the football, it's the football that they follow, but their behavior, the actual behavioral issue that they have, it will be down to a generational, thing. Because why I keep on mentioning that we shouldn't put footballers as role models in the way that people try to put it is because you get disappointed. You get disappointed because footballers, even in our time, and I refer back to our time, Tinozichi, what are we known for? Hatina chikoro. Yeah? Munhu webhora wakatonzwika uchitaura kana chirungu chinonzi akachidzidzira kwechirungu kana kuti une good job kana kuti chiudze kupi, because the expectations of a footballer are someone who is dull but knows how to kick a ball. It was never about someone who is intelligent, that you would be, you'll be regarded good someone are intelligent. That's where the problem is. That's why I'm saying that a issue a role model, it's more about the game itself than what they do outside, the pitch. But it does, even though we're talking about that, it still doesn't make it okay with what these guys were doing. These guys, what they were doing, it shouldn't happen at all. It shouldn't happen at all, because we know that alcohol slows you down. We know that alcohol on a short-term basis is not good for you for a game. On a long-term basis, it's not good for you as a player in your career. So it's just one of those things where I think at the end of the day, to cut the long story short, my issue is, let's hammer them for what they've done, but let's not choke them out of the way. Let's not use our emotions to literally burn them and say, you are never going to be part of us because of what you did. Because if we're doing that, then we are calling ourselves perfect. We're calling ourselves perfect. We never do anything wrong. But don't we? We all do wrong. Yeah. The person or the people who I don't like is when they've done something like this. It gets all this, all this crazy about how it's going. And then it goes on to do that again. That's someone who's not learned. That someone then it deserves not to be chucked out of the system, chucked out of the side. But if it's the first time, so yes, it might not be the first time, maybe because he's been drinking for donkey's years in the camp, but it's the first time that he's been caught. Yeah, if it's the first time that he's been caught, let's punish him. I'm not saying we shouldn't. Let's punish him. And when he comes back, or before he comes back, let's rehabilitate him. Let's put him in a position where Zifa is saying, under no circumstances are A, B, C, D, to happen again. If anything, or even if you are found in a position where you are not even drinking, but you are in a room where people are drinking, then we're going to suspend you. You're not, oh, we're going to bar you from the national team. Maybe take someone like Mave as a captain and say, for whatever he's explained, because I'm sure Mave, they would have spoke to him because it was in the video, he's a captain, they would have spoke to him. But whatever they talked about with him and say, going forward from here, as a captain, we would rather you get out of that room than be in that room, because your association with players in this way would mean that we have to get rid of you as well, because you should be leading by example on everyone, not just about siding with your friends or being in cahoots with your friends, because it could be that, like we said, it could have been drinking, Mave. You could have been drinking.
Yeah.
But we just don't have the full facts there. But you are putting it on him as a captain and say, drinking or no drinking, that's not going to happen again. No captain is going to be, any captain who's going to be caught in a room where the players are drinking, even if you are not drinking, you're going to be looked at the same as them. That's how I'm looking at it, because I'm unfortunately I'm one of those where I don't like sort of casting people away for something that they could be reprimanded.
Yeah.
That's from the position that I look at. Yeah.
The issue here is not about like casting them away. Yes, like you correctly said, let's reintegrate them. Let's just tell them this is wrong, this is not acceptable, and let's reintegrate them back into the team. You see, the thing with rules and regulations and laws, they need to be attached to a certain punishment or certain consequences. Otherwise, they stop meaning anything, right? It's
Yeah.
like you running a red light. If there's no punishment that punishes you for running a red light, everyone will be running a red light.
And I'll go through the red light again. Yeah.
And they will repeat it, and they will repeat it over and over again. So there should be rules and regulations attached with stiffer punishment for players drinking. All right, you may do it, but tikakubata, this is the punishment. And don't mince your words. When someone is caught, exercise zvamataura izvozvo. Don't never back out. Makana, if the punishment you might stipulate is you are out of you will never play for the Warriors again, then that person has not to play, he has to be kicked out of the Warriors. If the punishment is 3 games ban, then he has to get 3 games ban. If his punishment is financial, you have to pay certain amount of money, then let that happen. And we need that deterrent. Guys, we cannot continue doing like this. If you do this, yes, because we realize these players, this is a national team. It's not a club whereby we can go somewhere and buy another player to replace this one, because we still need that player. But we cannot let things get out of hand because we need you.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have to be balancing the two.
I agree with you, Al, and I'll go one further on what you said. What it should be, like I've mentioned that if it's a first time, then you've got to be warned and all that. Now, the way it is, it's not about the first time for everyone. It's happened now. It's a first time for everyone then. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the rule now should be, this is what has happened. And unfortunately, the lead has been on this guy on Teenage, because he's the one who's been caught doing this or whatever has happened. But going forward from now, there's no oh, you know what? If Bonnie then gets caught and he gets the same punishment as Teenage, no. From here onwards, the rule is, you get caught drinking, you out of the national team. You never play for the national team. And that rule now should go to everyone. Everyone. Not just the first time. So your first time now going forward, it would be the last time. because the warning has been put already through the one player. We're not going to have a situation where
We wait for
next
you to.
game there is one person, we give him a warning, then another game there's another one player, we give them warning. No, the warning has been given to everyone that this is not
Yeah,
going
that's
to happen.
correct.
Yeah.
Going back to the positives, I'm not sure, Kev, if you did you get a chance to really watch Mfana Monga Meli to really assess his game, or it was too short a period for you to see what he looks like?
I think that the unfortunate thing is I didn't watch the Botswana game.
The
That
first
was
one.
my birthday, and today uh, he wasn't really at the races, but then the game, that game could pass you by, the way that it wasn't really, because he played the first half, and it was like he seems a bit nervy, not just him, the whole team just seemed like we couldn't even, very few times when we built even like patterns of play, where which you could, talk about. And I think, what, for what I've heard about this young man and the performance that he gave, to then sort of try to distinguish or determine where he is with his play would be unfair. And I always say this, and I always do this across the board. What I don't, no matter who it is. What, I always feel like he's earned the right to be where he is, and let's see him with time, with the games that's coming. I hope that he can, whether he's not going to start, but and he gets those 10, 15, 20 minutes or whatever, and he tries to build himself, and show us, what he can do. Because no matter what, even if we say luck or anything, he bought his luck. If it's anything to do, like, he bought his luck, because how many players are in Zimbabwe, and he managed to play it and convince the coach, that he is worth a start, you know. Yeah, so I think it's still early days, because young lads, you've got to remember as well. He could play 10 games and he'll be flying, and then he just goes in on a deep, like massive deep, and he'll be a complete shadow of himself for a long time, and people end up saying, "Oh, how did he get into the national team?" So yeah, let's just give him time. Let's just give him time. Today wasn't a great day for everyone, especially the first half wasn't great. Yeah.
So, if you are Mario, say you're looking forward to, maybe if the talks go on well, maybe Neds may come back. Then left wing back, we were playing Murira today. I'm sure he's not gonna be the left wing back. Kunazemura, he'll be back. Then fortunately today Chirewa has come back from injury, so probably next time if he starts playing, probably he'll be back in as well. Maswanise was not around, Fuse was not around. So Ongwenya as well, he was not around, Msona was not around. So how do you assess how we may look forward to the coming games and take anything from these ones?
You see, this game was where you wanted to see the alternatives. This is what I would think about. Like, who else, if I don't have so and so available, who am I going to go to? Right? So, unfortunately, up front, he had to rely on Boni because he was, of all the forwards, he was the only one fit, and Navaya didn't really spark when he was given the opportunity to play there, right? Because Boni has this weakness, I think, of playing when the ball, like Kevin said earlier, when the ball is on the deck. of his hold-up play is not one of the best. You know who who is the best at that? It's Tino, but Tino is unavailable. So the coach has to, if Tino was fit, maybe he could have shown.
I think he's come back now from injury, but probably they are giving him more games.
You give him more game time to get back to his best. Yeah. So just as an example, if he was in camp, then Bonnie can see. He knows already. Bonnie knows his weaknesses. So he sees another player playing in his position. He sees how he does. We all learn from another, right? And then you learn from that. You see? So up front, the coach couldn't exactly look at all the players that he wanted to, which could have benefited us, right? But like you said, we have so many players who are yet to come into this team, and we look at Tawanda Maswani and Tawanda Chirewa. Those two can play in the sort of 10 position and behind a lone striker in this formation that he is playing, right? So it's a matter of who is at his best in that moment, who is in that moment playing well for their clubs, and who can easily gel with other guys who are already in the national team, and that's the coach's job to balance the two. And you see, pick. You think I think Tawanda can play with Musona. Tawanda can play with this. That's what the coach does. But the problem is, if we don't have players available, we have players who like Tando Ngwenya, right? I like that boy. He's good, and I think he's probably better than Bonnie. But the problem is he's always injured.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned earlier, we cannot look now at him as an option. This was his opportunity, but he was injured. So Arutita lays down. Then that opportunity goes to someone else. And unfortunately, the other person was the guy I mentioned earlier. He was injured as well. So you would like to see other players making a campaign to be in the national team, like pushing those guys who are already regarded as the first 11 by the coach, and the pushing them. How do they push them? By playing well for their clubs, for their respective clubs, and then
you know what, the Pamukta Ranye number 9 the player that I'm thinking of who would have been really good in a scrappy game like today, Lindov. That guy
yes,
is
you could have harassed those guys, give them, but he can still hold up, play, play with his back behind goal.
yeah
It's another option that has to be looked at.
yeah.
I think Lee would have been the perfect substitute for Bonnie. Yeah, and this is a game where you would have wanted to look because Lee is decent as well, with his feet. But this game was more a sort of a muscly
Yeah.
game, for a striker, and Lee is a beast. He's a proper beast. So that could have been, a good one as well because when I look at it, I'm a realist, and I think I blew a lot of horns for Bonnie here, and mostly because I felt that he was being unfairly judged because of the circumstances, which were there. But I'm also one to look at him and criticize him, and look at it and think, you've done okay, but you probably need to start doing a bit more. You probably need to start scoring a bit, even though your job is to hustle and bustle, because sometimes, what, it's an unforgiven role where you probably do everything for others to score, and if you
Yeah.
don't score, then people will judge you as a strike and say you're not scoring, but
You're not
you
scoring.
probably creating chances for others. So, but you still need to help yourself and be seen in amongst the goals. Score one goal in 3 games, 4 games, but you've been seen to be bustling and all that. That's because the problem is, let's just say Lee comes, yeah. Lee gets the opportunity and he does the same job as Bonnie does, but he scores a goal.
He scores.
Then you're looking at someone who's giving you two things at the same time, yeah. That probably Bonnie cannot give. Yeah.
You see, you would like to see Bonnie work on his finishing. You see, he had two chances, two clear-cut chances that he missed today, right? And the first one was the offside. As a striker, you have to make sure you stay on side, right? Then there was that one-on-one with the keeper. At least try to go around the keeper or chip, but to hit it straight at the goalkeeper and hope that the ball goes in between his legs. You see, that's lack of creativity. You want your striker, like Kevin said, to score goals.
Yeah, that was not a very good finish.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, on another matter, I think CAF they announced earlier this week that they announced the new format of AFCON and in African Nations League, which looks like it will be looking like the Nations League that is being done by the Europeans, whereby we are going to be playing AFCON every 4 years, and then the African Nations League will be playing every year. But it seems there'll be two components to that. There'll be regional qualifiers, sort of, and then the coming year, then kwakutambwa more of my finals, and sort of a relegation and a demotion. What I didn't understand was that they were saying so the finals will be having the same format as this format here, AFCON. And I'm not sure how they're gonna be playing on that one. So a lot of people are not happy that AFCON is being changed from what it has looked like. But what do you think about the new format? Are you happy with it? Do you think we are bending too much to the Europeans, or we need to move in line with the Europeans?
I'm not in support of this. You see, the problem we are trying to cope my Europeans. My Europeans, they still have the Euros on top of the Nations League, whatever that one. That one is a secondary tournament. You could, as for the guys who are in Europe, I remember Klopp criticizing that Nations League tournament as well. I don't even know what we are playing for, what they are playing for, and I'm sure at the end of it, there will be some final to be played, and someone is going to be given a trophy. But I don't see like the reason of having this tournament. In the end, he was complaining about players being given too much game time, and the players end up getting injured unnecessarily. But okay, for me, it's not about even the players getting injured. It's that formation. If it is not broken, don't fix it. Right? That 2 year thing was working perfectly all right for us at AFCON. Why are we changing it? Why are we making it 4 years? Why are we playing less game time? Is someone putting pressure at them? Would you guys limit the number of games that you play, and the amount of time you play? You see, we don't want to see that. Fans want to see people play football. And 2 years was fine, was working perfectly all right with everyone. And why are we changing it to 4 years? And you see, it's a complicated system, that Nations League. I still even don't understand it fully, of playing, of having relegation, who is in what group. I think it is, they have to be graded like a certain batch of countries are in a certain tier, and then the other one are in the second tier and the third tier. That's where the relegation comes. But we don't need that. Africa, we don't need that in Africa. Just play every 2 years, come to a final. If you want to increase the number of teams playing in that, then increase. But let them play every 2 years.
You know what? I've seen this in forget about football, forget about sport. But this is the same thing that happens over and over in organizations and companies. There are certain roles within companies where there has to be visible changes being made because someone has got to be seen to be doing something. Someone has got to be seen to be doing some work. Yeah. So sometimes the changes that come about have got zero benefit on the company or the organization. But what it actually does is sometimes it takes resources out, maybe to change the logo of the company, the certain aspects of the company, and there's an investment in there because we want to change how things look. But when you look at it, you then go and look at the sales or the productivity of whatever comes from there, and nothing changes. But someone gets big bucks for doing those changes. That's football sometimes, for you. People change things that don't need to be changed because they've got to be seen to be doing something. Or alternatively, they have pressures from within or external forces who are pushing that. And this is another point again where I cannot say 100% because it's difficult to factualize something like this. But I don't put it past the fact that European football puts pressure on African football to almost try to mirror what they do. And it can be directly, but it can also be indirectly. When people see we're doing Super League, or there's people crying out for Super League in Africa, they want to do Super League. When they cried, oh, you know what, we've got Nations, a Nations League and all that. In Africa, all of a sudden they want to do Nations League, and in that sort of way, they are literally destroying what we have already, or compromising what we have already. Because if I would ask someone, what are the benefits of having the supposedly Nations League as compared to having AFCON? Because the one thing that I know is Euros, yeah? Euros and Nations League, you can never compare the competition of Nations League and Euros. Yeah. You can never do that. And there's no way that those a Nations Cup, whatever, is going to be bigger than AFCON. Yeah. But the difference now is that Africa as a continent and as fans, we had the joys of knowing that 1 year there's nothing, even players from the Premier League, from the European leagues, they're not going anywhere in January. They will be playing for their clubs because there's nothing there. But the next following year, we've got that huge international, competition.
Yeah.
So what was wrong with that? Who put pressure on us to stop doing that? Why 4 years? Every time I see Motsepe talking, I feel like I want to smash the TV. Because even from the manner that he speaks, he talks the talk because he's good at talking. When you hear him talking, you would think we've got these amazing things going on. But now, I feel like he's a puppet. I feel like he's a puppet, and I feel like FIFA and Euro are heavily invested in African football and influencing African football, and that's the reason why I feel that even this decision with Senegal, I see it being a wider thing, more than what is being let out. I really feel that it goes as high as FIFA to try to appease Morocco. I feel like that.
Yeah, it's hard to put it past that because I don't think CAF could have just made that decision on their own without sort of consulting with FIFA. And yeah, I think it's in the best interest of FIFA that Morocco is happy, in my view. Yeah.
And now I heard they are now amending their rules and regulations, the CAF, so that they are in line with whatever they implemented Senegal. You see, they are now changing their rules, which means they know they made a mistake. They know their error. There, it's if there is no clearer, much clearer indication of admission of guilt, then immediately you start changing your rules after someone has gone to court for appeal.
Because if the rules were, if they were sure with the rules like you've just said, they wouldn't change them, would they?
They wouldn't change them.
No.
Exactly.
No. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, I think for today what we wanted to discuss, I think we are done. I don't know if you guys have anything else that you'd want to raise.
No, I think
Well, no, I don't. I think we had a lot today. We had a lot of the same issues. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of
But
things.
at the end of the day, like you said, I think we could look at some of the things differently, but none of us is swayed away from the fact that discipline is paramount, and professionalism is the be all and all. And I think it's just the implementation of the suspensions and repercussions of what the actions that
certain
the players
behaviors.
made. But no question that we'll all agree that such things like that should never happen, and I'm sure we all agree as well that one issue is bad enough, and if there's any rule, the rule has got to be clear for everyone now that there is no second chance for anyone. He's been lucky. He's been lucky. Probably we should put it down as the teenage law. The teenage law, in the cipher books, because there won't be any second chances, with that.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so
Varume, munoziya nyaya idzi? Yes, how are you? Muri seana baba?
Hello.
Unobva watonyazoneta. Sorry zvenyu ndakupinda ndazouya late. I was busy nekumunda. But kuchinjwa kunenge kuchiitwa zvinhu uko. At the same time, I think Africa ka tofanira kunge iko zvine zvisvika izvi. Tofanira kunge tiri kufocusa on development technology yebhora. Not kuda kuti tirambe tichichinja masequence and etc. When the technology rises I think ndo patoita kuti technology yedu yaumana yawandisa. Let us modernize system yedu yebhora. We are still struggling at premiership level, the whole of Africa. And then tomanyira kunoita zvekuti taakuchinja sequence yekutamba kweAFCON. It's not necessary for us. Hazvisi necessary izvozvo. Hazvitombori necessary. Though sematariro anga azviitwa nanzani. naelder Kelvin. Yeah, pane zvinofana, pane some significant structures anofanira kutosiyiwa. Anofanira kuonekwa kunzi asiyiwa pane zvakamboitika. It's like zviri kuitika zvaakuitika apa ndezvekuti first you remember the scenario yemuclass yekuti teacher anobvunza chakadai munobva but hydrogen gas arutaura off the topic ani muri kunzwa apa ndiye atoka kusumudza ruoko munoziva quick reaction here popa question wobva wasumudza wobva wataura off the topic. So ndo zvakungoitika kukafu kwaya asi but vauraya chinhu vega.
Yeah.
Vauraya chinhu zvekuti in the next couple of years some of my players achapedzisira adzokera to that era yekuramba kudzoka kuuya kuzotamba kuAfrica vachiti we don't get anything, we don't benefit from it, because iri kuramba ichilose value when it comes to the Ballon d'Or thing.
Yeah, I think you've mentioned, an interesting thing that you've just mentioned, and I won't say much on this, but you talked about technology in Africa and in Zimbabwe and all that here, and there's I've only got to realize that there's so much going on behind the scenes, with companies and organizations which are trying to work with African football and African countries, to modernize them, with technological infrastructure, and so much, and I have been actually approached by someone who is, someone who's got a very massive backing, financial backing from, like people, money people. And he's approached me. He's British. I've known him for years. And he's approached me. So I won't say much, but his company is doing a lot of AI stuff in Dubai, and it's moved on to South Africa and some West African countries. Yeah, so they're looking at Southern African football as well. So I'm just sort of talking to him, and I've got hold of some brains as well from Africa to get involved in it. So we having meetings now to see how best because I've earmarked Zimbabwe mostly because being it's got to be my priority. Yeah. And looking at how AI can actually sort of be developed, from a football, point of view, to see it's really interesting, because I was sent the information and the stuff, that they're doing with the AI. It's amazing. It's really amazing. Where
is it in terms of performance analysis?
The performance analysis and all that, and there's a lot of things, out there, but that's just one part of it, but just speaking from that performance and analysis, it can literally, you could be playing, you've got a chip, and after your training, or so, it shows the differences that normally coaches cannot pick. It can pick, like, say, for instance, I'll give you an example. Me and you, we more or less equal in terms of technical ability. Yeah. But it will show when I receive the ball, my reaction. How do I react before I receive the ball and then receive it? Where's my first touch? And it works on you as well. So it might look the same. We could do the same move, but it shows who does it better. Who buys a millisecond out of that pass? Who is quicker? In buying that pass? It's something that my naked eye,
Wouldn't see.
as a coach looking at two players, might not see. I
Okay.
would see the same move and feel that they're doing the same thing. But AI will be telling you, no, this one is better because he does it A, B, C, D, or before he did this A, B, C, D, he saw this, he did this, his eyes were blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like so in depth,
Okay.
you know. So I think that can only develop our game. It's going to take a long time, you know, to be rife amongst, you know, our you know, the whole of Africa. But when it really starts, you know, in the African countries, in some parts of Africa, it will be very, very interesting. I have to move and get to where the charger is.
It's okay. I think we are closing up anyway. Yeah. Thank you so much for those who have been watching us, for joining us. Please do. We value your comments. Please do go and comment. If you have friends, please do share the links and subscribe and join the community. If you have any suggestions, things that you want us to talk about, guests that you need here, just hit the comments, hit our messages, and talk to us, and we'll take it in stride. And as you know, if there are any comments that we make here, it's out of the love of football and nothing else. So yeah, we are all football lovers. So thank you so much for being with us.
All right,
Until
it's
next
okay,
time.
Baba. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Al.
Cheers.
Thank you,
All
OJ.
right.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers,
Cheers.
Thank you.
guys. Later.
Cheers. Okay, bye.